Hey everyone, Scott here. Hope you're all doing well. And one of the questions I've been getting quite a bit for some of the teams as they're growing is how do I hire correctly? I know that it's time to bring on a salesperson or a sales team or some sales functionality beyond just myself as a founder or the team that we have. And so I want to make sure that I'm thinking about this whole hiring thing the right way. And so as you imagine, there is a system that you can use. So what I'm going to do is draw out a really simple 4-part model that we're going to walk through. And then each of those 4 parts have actually 3 subparts. And so once you go through the 4 parts and the 3 subparts, this will give you your complete kind of 12-step sales hiring system. So the first thing you need to know is that the 4 main steps that we need to think about, number 1 is define, number 2 is find, number 3 is hire, and number 4 is onboard. So if we think about this in terms of just like a clock or a circle, right? So we're going to divide up our model into 4 parts. So the first thing we want to do is define. The next thing we want to do is then find the person or people that we're hiring. The third thing we want to do is actually do the hiring. And then the 4th is onboard. So these are our 4 steps. And what we're doing is we're starting here at the top of the clock, if you will, and just kind of working our way around this way. So when we say define, specifically, there's 3 things that we want to be thinking about before we even start the interviewing or the hiring process. And those 3 things are, 1, what are the tasks? Like, what's the job? What are the roles and responsibilities? What are the tasks that I'm going to be handing to this person or to these people that I'm hiring? So if it's a salesperson, and specifically, I know a lot of folks will start by hiring a sales development rep. So somebody who's going to be working on leads, working in concert with some of the marketing work that you're doing, and then identifying and qualifying some of those leads, doing some outbound strategies, or helping to set up meetings for you. So these are all specific tasks and the role and the responsibility. So first we need to be really, really clear on the tasks that we need to have done. We can't just say, I need help with sales, so I'm going to hire a salesperson. We need to say, well, these are the 10 things that if I can get them off my plate and have somebody who's specializing in those do those for us, it's really going to help me scale my business, right? So the first thing is being really clear on the tasks. These are the roles and responsibilities. The next things we need to measure, or next thing, I just gave it away. The next thing we need to establish are what are the metrics by which I'm going to be measuring this person or this role, this job, right? And so if the tasks are, and I'm focusing on hiring for a sales development person, then what are the metrics I'm using to define success in this job? Is it number of contacts? Is it number of meetings? Is it number of appointments? Is it number of new people added to the list? Is it closed deals? Whatever those metrics are, again, just like we need to know, be really, really clear on the tasks, we also need to be really, really clear on the metrics by which we're going to be measuring that person, that role. Otherwise, what those metrics do, they help you figure out what is the ROI. What is your return on investment? You have to hire and pay this person, so you need to get something back. And those metrics are designed to help you track whether or not that person or that role that you're hiring for is in fact delivering back a return on your investment, right? So that's the second piece. So defining is first figuring out the tasks, the second are the metrics, and then the third thing we need to figure out is the persona. This is the kind of person that we want to work with. You know, is this somebody who's just out of college and who's raw, that I'm willing to spend some time and energy with, that's just excited to be working in my industry? Is this somebody who's more experienced? What's the kind of cultural fit here? It's just like thinking about a customer. Who's your right customer persona? Who's your right buyer persona? You want to think about what is the persona, what are the type of people, what's the personality of the people that we want to have working for us? We need to define that as well. So it's not just about the accomplishments of some resume that we get, but is this person a good cultural fit, and do they match for the tasks and the metrics? Can they accomplish the tasks, do the metrics, and do so in a way that meets the sort of cultural norms and the requirements of the job, of the company, right? So those are the 3 parts of defining the role. So we need to do that first before we even start doing our recruiting, before we start finding people, and that's the next stage. So the next stage here, there's 3 subsets here. So the first thing, when we're thinking about the finding, this is when we're going out, and now that we're clear on the tasks, we're clear on the metrics, and we're clear on the kind of people that we want to go after to come work with us, now we got to go find those people. And so then the question is, well, where and how am I going to go find those people? You can certainly post on job boards or, pay for a recruiter and those kinds of things. I like to think about the way I find people, find employees, in there's kind of three different ways, or three kind of key components to finding and doing the recruiting, right? So one is who are the people that I can use and leverage? So this is my network. So who can I reach out to in my network, whether it's contacts on LinkedIn, professional organizations that I might belong to, other social networks. Who are the people I can reach out to? My close kind of personal advisors and friends that might recommend people that they know. Who are the sort of the broader networks that I have, and who are the bigger organizations that I can go and find and get help, get introductions. Because now, once I know the tasks, the metrics, and the persona, I can say, hey, this is the exact kind of person I'm looking for. Do you know somebody who's just like this who might be a good fit for my company? Right? Because if we give our network a lot more specificity around who we're looking for, then they're going to do a much better job of giving us the right leads, just like doing sales, right? The second thing you want to think about is the places. So while the people is the network, the places are where can I go to meet the kind of people that I want to hire that can do these tasks and achieve these metrics and fit my persona that I'm looking for. So those places might be conferences, they might be meetups, they might be places in social circles. Where are the places I can go and sort of absorb and get myself inundated with the kind of people and around the kind of people that I want to hire. So the places, meetups can be really good. For example, if you're hiring a sales development rep, then go to a meetup group that's designed for salespeople, right? Because those people are out there meeting new people. Oftentimes they're out there because they're looking for a new position. And so you want to go immerse yourself in those places where you can have a lot of sort of one-to-many conversations, right? So first is, who are the people who can help you in your network? Where are the places you can go to find those kinds of people that match who you're looking for? And then the third piece here, which is more less about the people and the places, and the third P here is the priority. It's making this a priority. So we can say, I got to hire a salesperson that can do these things for me. But if we're not making this a priority, if we're not saying every single day I'm going to do at least one thing that's going to advance the recruitment process, whether that's making a couple phone calls, sending out a few emails, booking to go into a live event that night or later that week to go find. If we don't make it a priority, then it's not going to happen. We can't just say, I need to hire a person and I hope that I find the right person to fill the need. I've got to make it a priority, right? So if you're not making it a priority, you're just not going to find the person that you're looking for. And at the end of the day, what's going to end up happening if you don't make it a priority is you're going to hire the first person that you see that you think might be the best fit based on who you talk to. You've only talked to 2 or 3 people, and the fourth person walks in, and they're like, good enough, and you're like, great, good enough. I'll just hire this person and get them on board, right? And that's one of the worst things that we can do, because now that person isn't going to match the persona. They might not be able to accomplish the task. They might not be comfortable with the metrics, and they might not be able to achieve those metrics. So just like anything else with your company, if it's important to you, you have to make it a priority. And that's a key part of this find stage in your sales hiring system. Right, so first, now we've defined the job, the task, the metrics, and the person. We're going out and we're using our network. We're getting people to help us. We're going to places where we can immerse ourselves in our target kind of persona and the people that can do this work. And we're made it a priority. We've committed to making this a priority to the company. The next thing we want to do is then go through the actual hiring process. And so the hiring process, again, there's three sections to the hiring process. So the first thing we want to do is screen people. So again, think of it just like you're selling, right? You want to qualify the people that are coming in. And so there's a lot of different ways that you can screen people. One way to screen it, of course, is you're getting resumes in, very quickly put people in and out. And this is where going back to defining the role and the persona is going to serve to your benefit, because it'll be much, much easier for you to say yes or no, put people in the, hey, I'll at least do a screening call with them, and no, they're not, right? Because if we're not really clear about the definition of the job and the type of person, we'll get a resume that might look impressive and go, maybe I can make this person work for us, right? Oh, that's really impressive. They have this great successful sales career. So maybe they'd be a good fit for me. Well, maybe they won't, because they're not the right persona, or maybe they've done different tasks in the selling process. They've never worked at a startup. And so doing the tasks at a startup, it might be a lot different than doing the same tasks at a big company. So you just need to be really, really clear so that we can do the screening properly. The second way to do screening, of course, is just a quick phone call. So one of the things that I do is a quick 5 to 10 minute phone call. And I tell the person, like, here's the thing, your resume looks really, really great. I want to do a very short screening call just to learn a little bit more about your background. And then identify 2 or 3 quick questions you can ask that person to see whether or not it makes sense for them to go into a longer interview process. Just because you want to talk to somebody doesn't mean the first conversation has to be an hour-long interview. Like, let's use our time wisely, and because you'll know, as soon as you pick up the phone, especially if you're hiring a salesperson, you're going to feel either comfortable talking to that person or you're not. And if you're not comfortable talking to that person, then your customers, your prospective customers, aren't going to feel comfortable talking to that person. So let's not hire that person. And we only have to spend 2 or 3 or 5 minutes in that screening call before we can get them out. So the whole point of screening is to invest this little amount of time with any potential candidates that meet our criteria here so that we can then move into more of a formal interview process. Okay? And that leads us to the second stage. So once we've screened the candidates, then we want to interview them. And that interview doesn't have to be one big, long interview. That interview doesn't have to be come on site and meet the whole team for the day. That interview process could be 2 or 3 conversations. So maybe you do a 5-minute screen, and then it's better to say, okay, great, you sounds like you could be a good fit. The next step for us would be to set up a slightly longer call where we'll spend about 30 minutes where I can ask you a lot more questions and get a better sense for whether or not this is a good fit. So maybe the first thing you do is a 30-minute call, and then if that goes well, you could schedule a longer 60-minute call, and if that goes well, then you can do an on-site, right? The whole idea here of having this process, whatever works for you, maybe you go from 30 minutes to on-site if you're feeling that comfortable, or maybe you do 30 minutes and then 60 minutes and you don't do an on-site. Whatever process works best for you is up to you. The whole point here is to reduce your risk so you're not exposing yourself and your team to a bunch of bad candidates. So it's just like the sales process. You want to qualify people in and then bring them through, and if there's any reason to qualify them out, get them out, right? And then go back and find more people to be talking to, right? So first step under the higher phase is screening. The second is to go through interviewing. And then the third is the assessment. And this is a place where a lot of teams, I see they kind of fall on this. They don't know what assessments to do. But they feel like, oh, I talked to them for an hour or so, and the team talked to them, and everybody thought they were really great, and their credentials lined up with what we need, so let's go ahead and give them a shot. Well, maybe that's the case, but there's a lot of assessments you can do. One is to do a mock. You can do a mock phone call, do a mock sales interview. That's one way to assess people. Say, look, we're going to set up a sample login. I'm going to have you get comfortable with the product, and then I'm going to have you do a product demo with me. That's a form of an assessment. Another assessment that you might do is having that person do a couple of cold emails to you and say, hey, look, I'm going to have you send me some cold emails. I'm on the prospect list. I want you to send me a cold email, and then I'm going to reply back, and I want to see how you reply back to me, and I'm going to reply back to you, and I want to see how you reply back to me, and I want to see your style to go from cold email to getting me onto an initial phone conversation or a product demo. That's another form of an assessment that you can do, because again, somebody may interview really well, and then all of a sudden you get them in the seat and you realize like they can't write an email to save their life. Or when it comes to product demos, they have no idea how to make a demo flow over the screen while they're talking to somebody on the phone, right? So you need to understand that stuff. If your company is the kind of person you're doing a lot of on-site, bigger meetings, and you're expecting this person to do an on-site in-person meeting or product demo, then have them come in and do a mock. That's all part of the assessment. And then the last assessment that I absolutely encourage you to do is what's called a behavioral assessment. Some of you might be familiar with something called DISC, D-I-S-C, which is just a way to see how people tend to behave. There's one that I use called Zero Risk, and it's one I'm a huge believer in because it's really short. It only takes the candidate about 15 minutes, and it will help you actually earlier in the interview process. You can send an assessment even here. You can do an assessment between the screen and the interview, and do this what's called a behavioral assessment, so that in the interview process you can really key in on key traits that the behavioral assessment is exposing for that candidate, right? So you're not using the assessment to hire or not hire somebody, you're just using it to help you guide them through and help you guide yourself through the interview process. So there's behavioral assessments you can do sooner, and then actual job-specific assessments you can do later, like sample emails, phone calls, demos, on-site presentations. So as part of the hiring process, you want to have this kind of like multi-stage approach. Starts with screening, then you're interviewing, and also including an assessment. So we've talked about defining the role, how you're going to find people, the hiring process, and now voila, congratulations, you've hired that person, and we need to have a system on the end of that as well. Just like with a customer that decides to come and spend money with us, we want to make sure that the person we hire feels really comfortable that we have a system to make sure that they are going to be successful with our company. And there's three areas there that I focus on. So the first is team. So how do we get the rest of your team, however big or small it is, how do we get the rest of the team involved with getting that person feeling comfortable, feeling welcome? Can you do some job shadowing? If I'm a salesperson, maybe I can go spend an hour or two watching the product team do a couple of product sprints or product road mapping. Or I can spend some time with the engineering team. Or the very first day, let's make sure that we have a welcome lunch for that person. We're gonna get somebody from product, somebody from engineering, somebody from design, so maybe the CTO all comes, and let's get the person feeling like they're part of the team. What do we do when they first walk in the door? Do you have a T-shirt? Like, hey, congratulations, welcome to the T-shirt, and here's your coffee mug. Let's go get you over right now. Let's get a cup of coffee together. Let's put on your T-shirt. It's a rule here that everybody has to wear a T-shirt their first day. So here's your T-shirt. Wear that, and we're going to go get you set up on your computer, right? Making sure that the person is feeling like they're part of the team. And this also means, like, logistically, like, do you have the computer ready for them, a laptop ready for them? If you're going to give them a cell phone as part of their job, do you have that plan set up? Are they walking in and you're like, oh yeah, I guess we should order a laptop for you? They're like, oh, okay, great, thanks for hiring me. I'm really glad that you're ready to have me do some work for you. Like, that's all part of making them feel like they're part of the team, that you were anxious, you're just waiting for them to show up. So that's kind of all that comes into, is thinking about making sure that that person feels like they're part of the team and that you are expecting them and you can't wait for them to start. So that's part one. Part two is training. So making sure over the course of the first day, the first week, the first couple of weeks, do you have a training program set up for that person to make sure that they understand the product, they understand your systems, they understand your market? That are you setting up a time to shadow them as they're doing calls? Or are you just simply saying, okay, well, you're hired, there's your laptop, and we're going to have lunch in a little while. In the meantime, for the next 3 hours, start making phone calls. Like, what? I would love to. I'm happy to go jump on the phone, but I actually really don't even know what I'm supposed to be saying to people. So, like, do you have a training program set up so that person, again, when they walk in, you're like, okay, great, over the next month, these are the objectives, just like a little course. These are all the key things that we want to make sure you are competent in doing over the next 4 weeks, and they specifically line up with the tasks that you're going to be doing, and they're going to help you hit the metrics that we're going to be measuring you on and that you're going to be measuring yourself on. And we're going to make sure that you get trained up over the next couple of weeks or the next couple of days to do all the things that you need to do to be successful here and to help us grow. Right? So having a training program. And then finally, the last part of the onboarding process is managing. So aside from just teaching them stuff, how are you managing them? Are you doing a daily stand-up with that person? Are you doing a daily retro? These are all the things we are going to do today. These are all the things that we did do today. Are you going through and managing that person as a manager and saying, great, over the course of the first week in the training, we said we're going to do these 3 things, and so far you're doing number 1 really well. Number 2, I want us to keep working on, and number 3, we had planned to have that knocked out this week, but it seems like number 3 is really an area where we need to spend a lot more time. So I'm going to give you really specific feedback on how you can improve on number 3. So that, and next week we're going to actually go and spend a lot more time on number 3, because if we don't do number 3 really well, you're not going to be hitting your metrics, and that's bad for both of us. So being really clear and really transparent on what they're doing well and where they need to improve. That's managing people. Instead of like, oh, I don't want them to feel bad, or I just want them to feel good about the stuff they're doing well. Yeah, let's do that. Let's make them feel good about the stuff they're doing well. But let's also be a manager and make sure they're really clear about their expectations. Because if they don't learn what they need to learn, they're not going to hit their metrics. If they're not hitting their metrics, then they're not going to be here very long. That's part of being a good manager. So this is kind of, think about this as your entire system. So just to recap, so number one is we want to define the role. So what we're doing here is defining the role and responsibilities. And also we're looking at the metrics and the persona. The next piece is finding the right person. This is all about recruiting. So defining the role is about what tasks do we need them to do, how are we going to measure success, and who's the right kind of person that we're looking for, what's the persona. Finding people is the recruiting piece. Who can I use? What networks do I have available to me? Who are the people and networks that are going to help me find the people that can do these things? Where are the places I can go, events, conferences, wherever, to go and find the kind of people I'm looking for myself. And then thirdly, making sure that as I'm doing my recruiting, as I'm finding the person to fill this role, that I'm making it a priority. Then the third piece here is the hiring phase. We talked about having, making it really keeping the friction low for you and the risk low for you, having short screening calls, having a nice lockstep interview process, doing behavioral assessments early, and then doing job assessment work later on. So it's screen, interview, and assess are the three parts of the hiring phase. And then finally onboarding that new hire, making sure they're part of the team, both logistically, with logistics, you walk in, here's your laptop, here's your t-shirt, here's your coffee mug, making sure they're really clear on the training program that you're going to engage with together, that you've got that mapped out. It's like a curriculum or a syllabus. And then to make sure that we start very, very early on doing the managing to make sure that that person is hitting those metrics and doing the tasks correctly. So and I know a lot of you are out there, like I said, doing some sales hiring. And frankly, you can use this for any role, not just for sales, whether you're hiring for engineers or products or designers or HR or whoever. But this is because we talk a lot about sales, this is your sales hiring system in basically 4 big parts: define, find, hire, and onboard, and then 3 kind of key elements to each of those. So hope that's helpful. If you got any questions about this, or anything else in terms of getting into the details about defining tasks or defining metrics or making sure that you're finding the right places and people, or how do you find the time to make it a priority, whatever help you need implementing this model and implementing the sales hiring system, obviously let me know, and the team and I will be happy to help. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll talk soon. See ya.